How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the live interview with Mario Ortiz. We just had him on the line here for a second, and apparently he's having some kind of he's connecting his mic to his system. We had him on right before we went live, and we lost him, so we're just waiting on him. We're gonna have him here shortly, but in the meantime, I guess I can chit chat with you guys. Send a couple shout outs here. Let's see, we've got JD Zapata, who's in the house, also John Ortiz. Let's see here. Also want to send a shout out going out to some of my students who are joining in. Also, feel free to share the link, youtube.com Tejano keyboard /live, and that's how people can get the I believe that's Mario right now, so give me 1 second and we'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. I am your host, Rolando Revilla Jr., right here on TejanoKeyboard.com. Once again, if you guys want to share this link, be sure to do so. We were talking about it a little bit beforehand. YouTube.com /Tejano keyboard /live, and that should bring you to what we're seeing right here. If you guys want to share that on Facebook, there's also, I shared it on the Tejano Keyboard Facebook page if you guys want to like that. Facebook.com /Tejano keyboard. Also, YouTube, you can subscribe, hit the bell, do all that stuff so you can keep up to date with all these interviews that we're going to be doing here. I'd like to introduce to you today's guest, Mr. Mario Ortiz, joining us from San Antonio, Texas, correct?
Yes, sir. What is up?
Hey, Mario. How have you been, man? How are you dealing with this whole Corona thing?
Man, brother, just trying to stay sane.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, you know. But it's hard for musicians, you know. Our livelihood is, you know, being, you know, out on the town, you know, playing gigs at different venues, and all the venues have closed, man. So it's kind of an interesting time that we're living in right now. So before I start asking you questions, I want to share a real quick story. And my story was about probably the first or second time that I met you, and I was working for an internet radio station at the time, for Tejano FM, back in the day, and we were over there hanging out at Gilbert's. He had some kind of like open house or something during fanfare or fiesta or something like that, and you know, we kind of like, hey, how's it going, blah blah blah. We introduced ourselves, and I remember at the time, you had to have had a Samsung phone, and now let me explain why I remember that. Because I had the same phone with the same case on it, and you were playing, I think Modest was singing or something like that, and you had it right at the edge of the keyboard, and I was in the room, part of the live thing, and I thought it was my phone. I'm like, what am I doing? Why did I leave my phone there? And I went to go grab the phone, and you looked at me like, who's this crazy motherfucker? You know, like grabbing my phone, and then I'm like, why is my screen cracked? And I'm like, and why is it doing face recognition? I didn't set that up. And then I'm like, oh man, that's not my phone. So I put it back down. You're playing and looking over at me like, what? Like, why are you grabbing my phone? I don't know if you remember that or not, but
I do remember. That's been a long time. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, man, that was a while ago. You were working with Gilbert at the time, and then you kind of left that, kind of started your own little studio there. Well, how about this? Well, let's lead that. That can be the segue into the first question. So, well, let's start further back. How'd you get started in music, man?
In music, man, it's in the blood, bro. I was born and raised in the church. I'm from Del Rio, Texas. I'm maybe 2.5 hours west of San Antonio. Little border town, man. But it's in the blood, brother. My parents used to sing at church, and they used to have like the church band, and I started off doing that. And let me turn this down over here. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, I basically learned in church. You know, I did take some classical piano when I was, I want to say, middle school. But my roots are church, bro. That's where I learned how to play what I play now. You know, just church. So I want to say after I got out of high school, I did a little bit of college, but Del Rio is a small town, brother, and honestly, there was nothing for me there, man. So the closest big city to Del Rio, of course, was San Antonio. So I just did it, man. I made the move, you know. It started off rough. I ain't gonna lie. You know, being a kid just on your own, it's rough, man. So I did the whole, you know, I'm going to crash on your couch for a little bit until I get up on my feet. And slowly, man, I started, you know, moving up the ladder there. The way I got into Tejano music, I had gone back to Del Rio for a couple of years, and I started playing with a Tejano band. Friends of mine. And shout out to Nora Con Estilo. They were probably one of the first bands that I started working with as far as a working Tejano band. So they decided to record an album. They wanted to do it here in San Antonio. So they came with Joe Trevino at Blue Cat Studios.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of y'all that don't know Joe, the guy is one of the best, man. He was actually one of the guys that helped me connect with different musicians, different artists, and just again, you know, move up that ladder, man. So we came to record. Joe liked my arrangements, and he actually started bringing some other musicians to come track. So that's how I started meeting everybody, man. And from there, it was just networking and got my foot in the door, and now we're here.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that seems to be kind of the story. A lot of people, you know, start off in church and, you know, having relatives who play music and stuff like that. So was your family always like listening to Tejano music, or is that something that you just kind of did because it was there?
No, yeah. So honestly, man, I was never a fan of Tejano music. I always grew up listening to gospel music, to jazz, a lot of how would I call it? The pop international, you know, Luis Miguel, that was my thing, man, learning those pretty chords. And so I didn't really get into Tejano music until maybe towards the late 90s. I mean, obviously it was already hitting early 90s, but I got the tail end of it, man. So yeah, slowly I just started buying the records, and I was the guy that would always read the credits. So that was me, man. You know, the Jay Bettis albums, the Ram records, Emilio. You know, I saw one of the greats, man. Rest in peace, Jerry Rosa. He was one of the greatest, man. And I started paying attention to that. Like, man, this guy's on that album. This guy's on this album. This guy's on that album. I started to listen to the music, the arrangements. I was like, dude, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I need to get with the right clique, the right people, and that's how it happened, man. It's just networking, brother.
Yeah.
And
let me say this. You see, the opposite. I played in church too, but I really grew up I grew up in a rural town in Michigan, and I never got into like what the kids were listening to in school at the time, right? It wasn't until I was in high school. I actually played in some metal bands and stuff like that. But like you, I used to read all the credits and stuff like that, and so like I already had my favorites for like growing up, my heroes, you know, so to speak, and like, well, you know, the San Antonio studio band, you know, Jerry, Chente, Gilbert, all those guys, and like you know, I really like studied them. And so, you know, when you say, you know, you got to see like, you know, some of the greats, you know, like Jerry and stuff like that, and not only that, but now you're in the driver's seat right there. You're where Jerry used to be, and those are some big shoes to fill. And you know, with all due respect to everybody who's been there, you know, you're doing a good job filling those shoes, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Albeit slightly different, right? Because you come from like a different background, you hear different things and stuff like that. But I think that, you know, Jay's always had, you know, keyboard players that were pretty heavy cats, you know what I mean? And so Jerry, of course, was the one that kind of paved the way for all of that. Real quickly, I wanted to pause that real quick. I want to send some quick shout outs. I want to go to Ice Cold 337. Says, two of my favorite key ticklers, sweet, my friends both. Oh, okay, on Facebook. Okay, cool. Also, shout out going out to Jose de Paz, who's tuning in. It says, what's up, homie? Chris Rodriguez, who did an interview with me last week. He was our world premiere. Yeah, from 281. You're familiar with him. Steve Alvarez Blues. What's up, guys? All right, thank you guys. If you guys have any questions, be sure to send them in to us, and we'll try to answer them. And okay, so you're in San Antonio, you're living on people's couches. How'd you get into the whole Jay Perez thing?
Well, long story short, I wound up starting to work with Gilbert Velasquez. Mm-hmm. I was there maybe 15 years. Working with Gilbert. So Gilbert was like one of my mentors, man. I got to work with a lot of people, a lot of different artists, different genres. But at that time, I believe this was like in 04, 05, I was playing with Latin Breed. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I was still a youngster, man. I was maybe 18, 19, something like that. And there was a rumor that, well, there wasn't a rumor. It so happened that Jay's band, I guess, fell apart, whatever. I don't want to go into detail, right? But that's another interview. But, yeah, so Jerry actually, when he was still alive, actually called me. He's like, hey, man, Jay's looking for a keyboard player, and he's actually looking for a band. Are you interested? And I was like, well, yeah, man, that's like the gig, you know? Like, these guys are always working. And like you said, man, the keyboard player for Jay's always been, you know, somebody that people look up to, people admire, and just a badass, right? I guess. But he called me, and the accordion player at the time, which was Joe Martinez, he still stuck around. He came and dropped off a CD, and he's like, "Here, man, here's the music. If you want the gig, let me know." And so Jerry called me. He's like, "Hey, did they drop off the music?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I got it right here." So the next day, they had a gig, dude. So I had to learn 30 songs like in one day.
I know how that goes, man. I know how that goes. You know, I mean, well. Yeah, I mean, well, you were going to be part of this band, right? But like when people call you, it's like, hey, can you help out with this gig? Here's like 40 songs to learn.
Yeah, that's all the time, man. When are you playing? Well, tomorrow. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you know, luckily, man, you know, we think we're talented enough to kind of pick up on these tunes, right, and able to, again, going back to what I said, I wasn't really a hardcore Tejano fan, so I've heard most of the music, but there are some tunes like, man, I've never heard this song before. So it was crazy though, because the first gig, this was at New West, Dallas, Texas. Jerry actually went with me. He's like, look, man, Jay's just real iffy about bringing somebody new, and he doesn't know you, and da 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 da. And I don't know if they were trying to intimidate me or what it was, but I told, you know, I was like, man, I guess, I mean, whatever. If I'm gonna do this gig, like, let me do it. I got this. But Jerry went. He played maybe the first 2 songs. He played the leads, and I was just playing chords. And then he's like, "Okay, man, you got it." I said, "Yeah, bro. Let me do this." So I played the rest of them. Jerry just kind of, you know, backed off, and the rest is history, man. Jay dug it, and I've been Jay's music director and producer for the past 15 years, man. So it's been an experience. It's been a blessing. But yeah, I mean, we've got stories, bro, all day. But that's kind of how it led up to Jay, you know. So I had to let the guys from the breed know, like, hey, man, you know, I've got another offer, and I'm gonna take it. You know, unfortunately, Latin breed wasn't working that much at the time, and you know, I ain't gonna lie, I was a struggling musician, man, trying to just get gigs all the time and make ends meet, you know. So when I wasn't doing gigs with the breed, I would play with Joe Posada downtown doing the jazz trio stuff, or just whatever gigs I can get, man. And of course, you know, Gilbert would keep me busy in the studio. But yeah, as soon as I got with Jay, I mean, it's good, brother. We've been doing okay. Unfortunately, now, you know, everything's parked. We don't know how long this thing is gonna last. But we just pray, bro, that everything turns out well, and we can get back to touring, man, and entertaining people.
So, you know, I was speaking to somebody the other day, somebody within the industry. Who it is not important, but they were telling me, and I guess they were being kind of, in my opinion, cynical of the whole thing. They're like, man, I don't know that the Tejano music industry can survive this corona epidemic because, you know, right now there's a lot of, you know, the whole fanfare mishap. You know, people, you know, kind of are going to be slow to coming back to the music. I, on the other hand, kind of felt the opposite of that, and not just within Tejano music, but just live music in general. And I kind of want to get your opinion on this after I, you know, give mine, so you can either validate or criticize or whatever. But I think that this is actually, I mean, with all due respect to all the people who are having hardships because of this, but I think that this is actually something that could give live music a boost. You know what I mean? People are at home not doing anything. That once they're like, okay, green light, let's go out to the clubs. That we're going to see crowds and people supporting like never before. How do you feel about that, Mario?
I totally agree with that, Orlando. Me and my wife were actually talking about that last night because, you know, like for us full-time musicians, I mean, this is what I do 24/7, bro. So we're taking a huge hit right now. But in my opinion, I think once we're able to get back to going playing at the clubs and doing these gigs, in my opinion, I think it's just going to be stupid packed all the time, man. People are ready. They're so ready to get out of the house and go out and see live music. I mean, I think right now with all these Facebook Live performances, there's a lot of support. People are tuning in. I mean, they have nothing else to do, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so if that's happening, one thing I'm telling like my clients, I think right now is a good time to release any music, any singles, any music videos, because right now is the perfect time. People are tuning in. They're on social media all day long, and if you do your marketing right, it could go very well for you. So once this thing is over, then the gigs are going to start coming in. So yeah, I think it's gonna be good, brother. People are ready to go back and just hang out, have a good time, listen to live music. Right now, there's still some artists that still want to record. So I'm blessed and I'm fortunate to be able to do that, to help people finish their albums and still try to pay some bills, man. Because again, it's for us musicians that do this 24/7, man. It's a huge blow, brother. Like, we're used to having that income just every week, and now it's a game. It's a hustle for everybody, right?
It is.
Yeah. So I hope this thing blows over soon. I don't know. I can't say when everything's going to go back to normal, but
yeah, that's the other.
Hopefully. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, unfortunately, that's the truth, is that we don't really know. They talk about the whole, bringing the curve down or whatever, and we're starting to see some of that, but it could spike again. So these are really some uncertain times. But to lighten up the conversation a little bit, I want to send some more shout outs. We have Michael Ibarra in the house. I know you know that cat, right?
Yes, sir. What's up, brother?
And also Andres Nunez. He says, "What's up?" So shout out going out to them. Thank you, guys. And so Mario, let me ask you some other questions. Let's talk about like your keyboard setup, or what you take on the road, and maybe we can kind of. I have some other questions in relationship to that, but maybe we can start off with that, and so we can talk about what you're currently using on the road.
Yeah, man. So let's see. The last rig I had going, I was doing a lot of MIDI or virtual synths, I guess.
Yeah, plugins.
Yeah.
I
just take my MIDI controllers and I would use Reason or Logic. I have my own, little libraries that I have and upload, and I just go off of that. Sometimes I'll use the Korg setup. I was using the Korg Crow. I had an M3. And then I had a Yamaha Motif 6 on the side. I was always iffy about buying expensive, brand new keyboards and taking them on the road because they're going to get banged up, man.
Yeah.
My road crew, I love them. Shout out to you guys. But, man, bro. I come home sometimes and, I open up my cases there at the studio and I see a new scratch every day, or there's a button missing, or just a broken key, whatever. It's going to get beat up, man. So that's why I kind of just started doing the whole MIDI controller, man. They're real light, and I just take my laptop and I'm good to go, man.
Rock and roll, right?
Yeah. With Jay's band, I don't use too many patches. I just have my brasses, my strings, and my electric pianos or acoustic pianos, and maybe some kind of synth lead every once in a while if I do a solo or whatever. But it's pretty simple, man. I mean, there's times where we do some big shows, and I'll take my Fender Rhodes, and just have 27 keyboards set up, and it's just all show, you know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes you just want to bring the toys. And I'll be walking around sometimes with a guitar and stuff like that. But
yeah, at one point, or maybe you still are, you're endorsed by Nuvo, right?
Yeah, the New Motion.
There you go, the New Motion.
Yeah. So I was using that for a minute, but I started... It's kind of weird how it's shaped because it's made so your wrist can move like this, right?
Right.
But I'm not used to playing like this.
Right.
So I used it for a couple years. We're still endorsed, man, and we're actually talking about creating a new keyboard. But there's a few cats out there that are endorsed as well, and it's a cool device, man. But I did move to the Elisa's Vortex.
Right.
I was using that.
Yeah.
I just ordered a new Roland guitar, and I just got it, and that's when we got canceled, bro. Like, all the gigs started just canceling. So now I'm making payments, and I'm just looking at it there.
Yeah, if not, Rent-A-Center's going to come and pick up that guitar.
Yeah.
Just let's see. Also, want to send a shout out, says to Musico. It says, sub to my boy Mario Ortiz. So I don't know who Musico is, but apparently that's your boy.
Yes, my boy. What's up, brother?
So you were talking, and you kind of answered some of the questions that I had, but I guess I could dive into a bit more detail. So you talk about, like, and it sounds kind of similar to like what I'm personally used to, but like just like a handful of patches, right? Like you got to have like some kind of synth or a brass or a combination of synth brass and something, right? Like a few lead sounds, your strings or pads, and your pianos, whether they be electric or acoustic. So let me ask you this. I know that like with the 90s sort of Tejano sound, right? It's a lot of like that real FM sort of like DX7 sort of like wannabe piano sounds. Do you still find yourself using that more, or are you trying to use a little bit more of like the Rhodes sort of sound?
Yeah, I tend to get away from those 80s sounds, man, 90s sounds. I don't know, like, for whoever's listening right now, but for those of y'all that listen to the J albums, the sound has changed a little bit. So yeah, like my pianos are more Rhodes, whirly. But I do use, like, live, I do use like the layer patches, which is the acoustic piano with the electric pianos.
The David Foster piano, right?
Pretty much, yes. The David Foster ballad piano.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I'm using to stay old school a little bit. I use that Rhodes Affair that just came out. The Rhodes Affair 2. It's that real pretty electric, Luis Miguel-ish electric piano, man. And I use that a little bit and combine it with the Rhodes or with the whirly, just to give it that vintage sound. My brasses, they're a little more on the synth side. It's not so much like a Korg or a Yamaha brass, a real, tinny, bright. There are some patches from Korg that I like, that do have a full brass sound, but on this new album that I'm doing with Jay, I am going to try to give it that old school 90s, brass, that Jerry brass with the sax.
That ASR, whatever ASR, it was.
Yes, and Sonic ASR 10 brass.
Yeah, you know what? I've talked to some cats, and they're quick to be like, "Oh man, I got that one brass from Jerry," and then I'm like, "Mochate, man, come on, let me." Oh well, I got it on a disc, and I got a format of blah blah blah. Yeah. Okay, I see how it is. It's okay, I get it, I understand. Yeah. You know what I mean? But those of us who are enthusiasts, like me, I feel like the only way to really advance is to really appreciate, you have to look forward to stuff that's different, stuff that's new, but also take a little bit of that appreciation. Be a true fan of the music if you really want to put your heart and soul into it. So that's why sometimes when people are like, man, I'm like, man, hook it up. But I'm way out here in Ohio. The resources are limited as far as like musicians that have like the really cool stuff like that. But
yeah. No, I hear you, man. I'm the same way. I remember Jerry did hook me up one time with a floppy. He had that ASR brass, and he had like the vocals from the Me and Mrs. Jones session. But just with technology, man, you start putting stuff away in the garage, and then it's like, okay, where's that floppy at, man? And now it's like, even if I do find a floppy, well, how am I going to format it? Now I got to find a computer that has a floppy drive or a keyboard or whatever. It's just,
yeah,
it's a thing, man. So, Anybody that has those samples, hit us up, please.
Yeah, you guys could hit me up, TejanoKeyboard@gmail.com, or we'll get Mario's information later. We could share that, and if you guys want to send any of that stuff. Talking about like some of the electric pianos, let's see. Michael Ibarra says that he has that same disc. Come on, man, mochate, come on. You have it, and you can't even share. Man, we got to have a conversation about that. Also, there was the chat's going kind of quick here, but we had somebody who had said, let's see, says, Mario, I respect all your work, and the one that really stands out is coming from a Christian background, Mi Herencia, with Jerry Rodriguez. It was a top-notch brother. Keep them coming. Let's see. Musico's name is Richard Reyes. So shout out to Richard Reyes.
Sir, my brother. Yes, sir.
Jose De Paz says, needs the Triton VST. It includes all the sounds that came out with the Triton series.
I just got that the other day, man.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I had the Triton Studio. I think I talked about this with Chris, and man, I sold it because I wasn't even using it, and I still have a Triton LE, which has like, more or less the sounds, right? It's not the same, but that's kind of like a quick on the fly keyboard when I have to do a filler gig with somebody. Just put it on the stand, and then my splits are already all set up and everything, and then just go, because that's the one thing is that I don't think people really appreciate about keyboard players. And maybe well you were talking about it a little bit, right, when you do big shows and stuff like that, like when you have help to set up all the big stuff. But if you're just doing like a show and there's maybe one roadie or no road crew, whatever, and you got to set up your own stuff, you don't want to be setting up 5 keyboards.
Man, for real, brother.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I wish I played harmonica or something, because
right, it's like drummers and keyboard players take the longest to set up because we have all these stands and wires and whatever, and like guitar players, man, they connect to their amp, they noodle around and whatever, and bass players, accordion players, and they're like, okay, we're waiting on you.
Yeah.
So you were talking about that Luis Miguel piano. I think we were talking about this in the last interview too, that like some of those cats are still using like old 01Ws that they've like resurrected from like eBay and like, but they have that sound, you know what I mean? That like, it's kind of, it's not really DX7 FM sort of, but it kind of is. It's like its own unique sort of sound that like not a lot of other keyboards have. So it's like when you're talking about 80s vintage, but kind of like blending it in with, like Rhodes and stuff like that. That's kind of the sound you're talking about, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, most definitely. Mm-hmm. Those 01s, that dyno piano from 01, man, it's a classic patch, man. I will never forget it.
So right now, what I have here is let's see. No, that's not it. This is I'm lying to you. All sorts of. Oh, here it is. So I've got. I said I was gonna find out last week what it was. I forgot all about it. But there's this cat who's on YouTube, and he has patches for like the Chrome and Kronos and stuff like that. But it's like a DX7 with a Rhodes, and I never thought that the two sounds would actually like sound good together or whatever, right? Like in my head, I'm like, or at least not. I shouldn't say that it wouldn't sound good. It wouldn't sound like what that Tejano electric piano sounds like, right? But it actually sounded really good. So I've been using that a lot, but it was still missing that little attack. So I actually have been layering that with a sample of an 01W dyno piano. So that's what that is.
All right. Yes.
Yep. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about like your musical influences. So I could probably tell you off the bat because I've kind of heard you like mention some of the names like Corey Henry, Herbie Hancock, cats like that. Probably even like Jamal Hartwell and Byron Chambers, guys like that, Mr. Talkbox. Those are like the cats, right? But being that you play Tejano music, who are some of the Tejano keyboards that kind of inspire you? And I'm not necessarily talking about like it doesn't have to be from like a technical standpoint, be like, oh, this guy's, you know, a sweet, you know, keyboard player or whatever. But like, do you get inspiration from any of these other keyboard players that, you know, are your peers that are kind of doing the same thing? Maybe not, you know, the way you do it, but like, are there any cats that you say, hey, you know what, you know, that cat's doing something that I appreciate or anything like that?
Most definitely, man. You know, growing up, again, I was talking about Jerry. You know, he was one of the first keyboard players that I started kind of following as far as Tejano music goes. But another one was one of my hometown buddies, man, Mr. Jorge Velez.
You know, I was gonna say that too. When you're like, Del Rio's not that big, I'm like, man, I know Jorge Velez from there. I know some other good musicians from there too.
Yes.
Hernandez plays drums. I forgot his name. Edward.
Oh yeah.
Drummer. He's from Del Rio too, right?
From Del Rio as well. Joel Vasquez too.
Yep.
For Marcos. From Del Rio.
He used to be with Vida for a while, right? For a good long while, right? Yeah. Yeah, so there must be something in the water over there or something. I don't know.
It's that Rio Grande water, bro. I'm trying to cross it and then just
Rio Grande water. Yeah. So obviously you're listening to a lot of these, you know, gospel keyboard players, and you incorporate some of that stuff into your playing. What's an example? Say, I don't know if you have your keyboard set up or if you're able to play something or anything, but like, what's an example of something that might have influenced you that you're like, okay, well, you know, these are some of the chords, or this is something that I heard from blah blah blah, and now like I'm kind of using it in the context of like a ranchera or Tejano or a cumbia or whatever.
Man, you know, it's crazy. There was a time where I really started listening to a lot of, I guess, neo soul.
Yeah.
R&B. Mm-hmm. So I remember one time working on one of Jay's albums with Val. Mm-hmm. We were in the studio, and I had called him over and I said, "Hey, man, come and just let's produce together. Let's see what we can do with two heads, you know."
Right.
So, man, we were just there listening to records all day long, brother, just trying to get inspired. And there was one album that really caught my attention. It was that live recording that Jill Scott did in London. Mm-hmm. There was, what was that song we did? I want to say it was Sin Condición.
Oh, yeah.
There was a little riff somewhere there in the middle before the sax solo, where I couldn't figure it out, man. Like, it was just, we were there breaking our heads. Why is this? It sounds cool, man, and it sounds like we got it, but there's still something missing. So what it was is like, on the left hand, which is the bass line, mm-hmm. Let's say, for instance, it was a B flat. Mm-hmm. All chords, I think they were moving up in whole tones. So it was B flat, C, D, E, F sharp, and so forth. Mm-hmm. But the right hand was doing half a step up.
Yeah, you know what? I think I did a tutorial on that. Or something like ba ba da ba ba ba. Yeah. And get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So stuff like that, I was like, man, let's put some weird stuff in these records, because we would always say, man, I want to see this guy play live and see if they can figure it out. Because that's sometimes we do that, man, in the studio. I remember the other day we were here doing something. Oh, we were doing another Jerry Rodriguez album, Mi Herencia Chu. This is another gospel album that we're doing with a bunch of Tejano artists. Mm-hmm. But Chente Barrera records all the drums, right? And we always share stories, man, of whatever, all the war stories, you know, in the studio and on the road and stuff. But every time we're in the studio, I'll just tell him, do one of your intros, man, just whatever. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, I'm gonna do this one, man, because I want to make sure that nobody can play this. And There's some of these drum fills that he does, man. It's like, okay, where's the one? Oh, I can't tell you, bro. You got to figure it out. So, there's some cool stuff that we do, man, and sometimes we just do that for fun, man. Just throw these little weird progressions or weird off-time licks, whatever you want to call them, man, just to kind of get people to do their homework, study and practice, and I
mean, I'm pretty sure that you guys don't play this song live anymore, but it was off of the No Limits album. There's one chente lick, we'll call him a chente lick, right? Where it's like, if you just, like, for the first time listening, right? And even, I think to this day, some musicians who aren't really, like, analyzing where the downbeat is, it sounds like the drum fill starts on the beat, but it doesn't. It starts like on the and, or like on the last 16th note before the downbeat. And, so the song is Quiero. But anyways, but the what gives it away is at the end. So that's what it's 1, 2, 3. But when there's no count off or nothing, and the first beat is, it sounds like they're going 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's not what it is. It's 1. So yeah, different.
There's some of those, man. I'm glad you brought that up, because where I was kind of heading that way towards another song. It is Stu. There's a lick in the beginning of the song where it goes dum, dum, whatever the intro is. And a lot of the drummers that we've had throughout the years
want to do it on the downbeat, and they don't. It's not on the downbeat.
And the count is wrong. It was always a wrong count. So when we would segue to another song, it would just kind of do this, because it was always 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then when we get to the intro of that song, then it kind of stops, and now we're backwards. So
you
never get the count right.
You arranged something like that too. On one, I forgot which album it was. It might have been on that same. It was All of Me album. The Con Este Amor, I think it was. But those hits, because the drums sound like they go, but it's not. It's 1, 2, so it's all off beats, and then but once the ranchera group comes in, it's like, wait, what the hell? It feels like it's off beat, but it's not. It's because the leading into it. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know that a lot, like, and I try to listen to a lot of music, right? But I don't know that a lot of other artists are doing stuff like that. It's usually 1, 2, or something where like there's a definitive downbeat. But no, man, that's pretty cool. I know you've done like some other strings and like arrangements and stuff for like, even for like Signo and stuff, right? You did some like strings for the couple albums ago or something like that.
Yeah, man, I was fortunate to do the what was the name of the song, man? It was a huge hit once. Jesse's son Jacob, unfortunately he was in that accident that released that song. Bro, I can't even think of the name right now.
Te esperaré. Yo te esperaré. There you go. That's
Yo te esperaré. Yes. It was a huge hit, man, and I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to work with these guys, man. They're my homies, and I did the string arrangement in the middle of the song. I'm playing throughout the whole song. I'm doing some Rhodes and just some simple cello lines, but in the middle is when it has that big old, string orchestration,
right?
Whatever you want,
or whatever it was doing. But yeah, it was that sort of like kind of like chamber string, like real staccato. Pop, 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 pop. Yep.
Yeah. So what I did?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So what I did there, man, I kind of like stacked all kinds of patches, man, to make it sound as live as possible. You know, I use some samples. I use some virtual synths. I use some strings from my keyboards. I mean, just trying to make it fat and real as possible. And I think it came out okay, man. I mean, you know, for what it was, it to me, it sounded okay. Yeah, it sounded good.
Yeah, man.
But that song was a huge success, man.
Well, yeah, of course. You know, right now, Signal's, you know, one of the biggest names in the kind of music that we do. Real quick, I want to send a shout out going out to Tony Gonzalez that says, Mario! What's up from Tony G from Colorado. Also, people are talking about Mierencia 2. So people are kind of excited about that. So I'm going to go right back to the whole Signal thing. So like, you know, me being a fan of the music, like I like follow a bunch of stuff, and like I'm on social media quite a bit, but my wife, she's a bigger Signal fan than I am. I mean I'm a big Signal fan, but she's like always on Jesse's Snapchat and all this and that. So I have a question for you. This was from a while ago. There was some Snapchats that had you in the studio with Signal, and for whatever reason, y'all were playing like old school Tejano stuff, like some David Lee stuff and some.
Really? Yes.
What was that all about? Because Bianca and I, my wife Bianca, we had kind of like this theory going on. I'm like, watch it. Signal's next album, they're gonna do a bunch of like Tejano covers, but like their own way. But it never ended up happening. And so I don't know if you guys were just getting around and just kind of like messing around, or if that was from something that, or can you talk about that, or what?
So we were just messing around, man. We were actually getting a line check, and I don't know whose idea it was, man. I don't know when Joey was still around. I don't know. He just started playing the drums and singing these melodies on the mics, right? And you can still hear it bleeding through the drum mic. So then, I think we were trying to get ready to rehearse the song, to record it as a band, and.
But which songs? Was it a different song that you?
I'm sorry?
Which song were you guys rehearsing to get? Because here's the thing, is that so if you guys theoretically were rehearsing whatever, but you guys were playing like David Lee and Bobby Pulido and whatever, I don't know what, I don't remember. I'll have to look back because we have the snap saved. And,
oh, wow, you need to send it.
I'll send it to you. When we're done, I'll send it to you, man.
Yes.
But on the DL, because I don't think we were supposed to save that. You know what I mean? I don't even think that, you know.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so it was just something that, it was just fun, man. It was basically a line check. We were trying to get all the instruments going, and I think Joe started playing a cumbia beat or something, so I just started playing whatever songs, man. Everybody started following along, and then it just turned into like a medley. Well, do you know this one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, boom, 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 boom. Richard started playing. I want to say Ruben was already in the band. Yeah. So he was there playing bass, and then Jesse just started singing and doing these songs, and it was just fun, man. It turned into this little jam session. But I remember them saying too, like, "Hey, man, we better not release these videos because people are going to think we're doing like a cover album."
And that's what I was like. But you know, with Snapchat, like it's only like there for like a day or whatever, and then it's like gone. You know what I mean? And so I have my ways. I know.
Wow, that's awesome, man. We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Hey, so real quickly, and maybe I don't know how much time you have, but we've been on here for about an hour. I did want to ask you maybe a couple more questions as to like your approach to like maybe soloing or something like that. Like, what are you thinking when it's time for you to like play a solo? Are there certain keys that you prefer not to solo in, or you know, are you're like, hey, I'll play whatever, or, you know, what are you thinking? You know, are there any kind of phrases that you're hearing in your head when it comes time to solo?
I guess it just depends on the song, man.
I mean, most of the time when you're soloing, it's going to be a cumbia, right? It's going to be like Que Metida de Pata or something like that, because there's room for soloing, right? But like, you're not going to go and take a lead in the middle of like a ranchera, at least not an improvised lead, right? But if it's like, if you're not with a sax player and there's a specific sax lead on a ranchera, you're going to try to play it verbatim, right? or at
Right.
least as close as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
But like when you're like just improvising, I should say, instead of just soloing, I should say improvising. What are you thinking?
So you were talking earlier about these cats like Corey Henry and these guys. I really started paying attention to what he's doing on his solos, and I've been trying to incorporate that type of playing into my solos and stuff like that. The thing is, here's the thing, man. I've been playing with Jay, I want to say going on 15 years already, and after 15 years, every weekend playing the same song, you run out of ideas sometimes, and you tend to play the same little riffs or whatever. So in my mind, I'm trying to get prepared. Like, man, what can I do that's different? So before, when I wasn't as disciplined as I am now, I used to just do my solos and think, okay, man, I'm gonna do this real cool fast lick and impress everybody, and try to get the spotlight on me. And it's like, now I feel like I've turned into a seasoned, disciplined player, man. And my thing is being real melodic with my solos, making it to where people can understand what I'm playing. Don't get me wrong. There's times where I'm doing the all over the place just because you just do it. Either you're bored or you want to just get that shine. You know what I mean?
Right.
But for the most part, yeah, it's trying to be melodic, man. Trying to just, if I take out a tune here at home or in the studio, I'll try to use it somehow in my solos. Try to just throw little melodies that people might familiarize with, or just that can catch on to what I'm doing, man. But the thing is, now again, like I said, I'm trying to get my solos to where people understand my playing. Because there's a lot of people, man, from guitar players to drummers to whatever. I talk about this all the time, man, in my posts. It's not the so-and-so show, it's this guy's show featuring the musicians. So, like, when it's your time to shine, then it's your time to shine. But for the most part, I want to talk. I usually try to talk to my guys. It's hard to tell them, think like a producer, think like this guy, think like that guy. But, just think like a musician, a disciplined musician.
Yeah, and
play
I think
the part very straight.
And I think the other part of it too, like you were saying, is that now there's like the whole paradox of, okay, well, we have to be able to think from a producer perspective individually, right? To make sure that your part is part of the puzzle, right? But when you've done that puzzle so many times, you know what I mean? It's like now there's that thin line of like, okay, well, I got to stay disciplined, but I also don't want it to be boring. You know what I mean? So that's, I'm sure that's where you kind of like fall. It's like, well, I know that what my part is, but sometimes like you got to throw something in there to just kind of liven things up.
No doubt. But then too, sometimes people get carried away. It'll start off cool, and then it just starts going somewhere else to where it's like, what just happened here, man? It's a train wreck. Yeah. So like with my guys, I always tell them, I get on my guys all the time, man, but when it gets like that, some of them have thrown me that excuse, well, it's boring, man, I'm playing the same thing all the time. Well, you're getting paid, bro. It's a job.
Yeah,
the
man.
Thing is, what we do, bro, is we play music for people to dance to. This is what Tejano music is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's cumbias or rancheras, if you're playing at a dance or at a wedding, whatever event it is, the music that we're doing for the crowd, it's for people to dance to, man. So if you're going and all this crap all night long, they're going to get turned off. They're going to walk off. Either you're going to leave or they're just going to go sit down and just watch. And then it's just like this. You're in a concert vibe. So
also too, I think what a lot of young musicians maybe miss is that like it's cool to throw in some cool stuff, but if you show your hand too early, then there's nothing left for for later on. You know what I mean?
Right.
If right off the bat you're just like blah, 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 in chingas, and then like next thing you know, you're doing that for 5 minutes straight or whatever, and then next thing you know, it's like, okay, well that's not impressive anymore, right? But when you see your little window of opportunity and you go, oh, and then just put it right where it needs to be, I think that's a bit more effective.
You're right on that, brother. Like the way we do our little segments, like on that song you were talking about, Que Metida de Pata. So I'll usually I'll trade solos with either the sax player or the guitarist. Right now, it's just Fabian on sax. So I'll do a run, he'll do a run, and then I'll do another run, and he'll do it. So you just build, start off right here, man, because you're right. If you start off way up here, then by the time the second turn comes around, it's like, man, well, I already did everything I can play. Now what? So, yeah, it's just a matter of being disciplined, man. That's all I can say, just trying not to be so sloppy and get excited. And I just want to give everybody everything that I have. It's not about that sometimes, man.
So, going back quickly, I guess this can be kind of like, it can apply to both your approach to soloing and your approach to chording. Do you think from a theoretical perspective, like, are you thinking like certain modes, or are you just kind of like just playing, does that make any sense? Like, are you trying to think, like, say, for example, if you're soloing, right? Are you thinking like, okay, it's time to do something pentatonic here, and then, or, what, let's cut, switch to a different mode for this section, or are you just kind of like thinking phrases? And the same thing with chords, I guess. But a
little of both, bro. Again, it just depends on the tune, If it's something where, like, if it's something new and it's like, oh, you're just put on the spot, do a solo now, then it's kind of hard to think mode, or scales, if you're not too familiar with the tune, right? Obviously, you have to study a little bit, but for the most part, it's just kind of a balance, man. I mean, it all depends on the tune again, but yeah, but too, like, I don't like to go over people's heads either. For the people that are at shows and listening, if I start playing in another key and the band is still vamping on whatever, and I'm doing some kind of weird scale, they're gonna be like, what's this guy doing? It sounds stupid, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm over here doing a linear scale and blah, 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 and it's just, they're not gonna understand that. Right. Again, so it goes back to what I was saying, man. The music that we do is just more, it should be simplified enough to where people can just find that downbeat and just groove, find the feel to the song, man. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
Yeah, one thing that at least from like my style of like soloing and stuff, like I try to get, like, I listen to a lot of bebop. Like I from like a chord perspective, I like to listen to gospel guys, right? But like from a soloing perspective, I like to listen to Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, and some of those cats, because they have some really tasty licks, you know what I mean? And to be able to kind of incorporate that into something, right? But then so from my theoretical studies, I know that like if you're going to create any kind of tension on the 5 chord, right? Or for those of you who don't follow the number system, your segunda, right? That there's that your 5 chord is dominant, right? And that's where you build the most tension. And so you were talking about, like, it sounds like you're playing in a different scale, right? But so let's take the key of G, for example, right? And so when we go to D, D's dominant, right? So you have like your tritone in there of the F sharp and the C, right? But then like all the other notes can either be altered in some way, right? So like the 5 can be raised or lowered. Same thing with the 9, the 13th, the 11th, whatever, right? So sometimes when I want to get really spicy, I think of the Superlocrian scale, or what they call Superlocrian, or there's another like a diminished whole tone scale or something like that, right? But basically what it is, it's like playing, if we're talking D7, it's like literally playing the C sharp major scale over the right, but not really, because you're not ever hitting the C sharp. It's what is that?
Right. There you go.
Whatever. So like, but if you just hit it there for a second, like yeah. Whatever, you know what I mean? If you, for a split second, if you want to, or even like something diminished, whatever, you know what I mean? But that's like the opportunity to do it, you know what I mean? Is like on some kind of like altered dominant. So like one thing that I noticed from like, say, like your cumbia intros that start off with piano and stuff like that, I noticed that you do like a lot of like tritone substitutions, right? Like when you're doing like No Quiero Estar Solo or Amame. Like, because the Jerry de la Rosa way is just like a really like a 1, 6, 2, 5 sort of thing, right?
Right.
But then when you approach the next one, how are you thinking? Like, I know that you're doing like, you're hitting the tritone in your left hand, hitting like, it's a tritone interval, right? Because you're hitting like the major third and the dominant seventh. But then on top, you're like extending the chord a certain way. How exactly are you thinking that? Because like, I mean, I've done a tutorial, like say on, it's been a while, but like when you do stuff like that, how are you thinking that process out and where to place them? Or are you not really like thinking on it like that deep of a level? Are you just kind of like just playing?
It's a little of both, man. It's more following the melody first, finding the dominant and finding the melody.
Yeah, like so for example, like, because like, like in the live version of right, so then you'll hit a chord and the melody will stop, right? Because Jay will go, yo pensaba que no importaba, and then you're like, yeah, something like that. Na 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 na. You know what I mean? And then like, so right there, those altered dominants that you're playing right there, like, how do you like figure out where to put those in? Like, I mean, I've figured out how to put them in from like listening to other cats do it, like yourself or like some gospel cats, right? But
that's pretty much what I'm doing too, man. For me, that's just church. Like those chords I use all day when I'm churching, man. So those transitions, those tritones, they come natural, man. I mean, it's just basically a transition going from the 6 to the 2, resolving the diminish or the sharp 9, whatever it is, whatever the chord is, it's just, it comes from both, man. Just kind of taking these chords from this guy or that guy and putting them in. But at the end of the day, that's just church for me, man. That's just the playing that I do. So I try to incorporate that with these ballads or these little interludes that I do during shows with Jay.
Yeah, like the Me and Mrs. Jones interlude. Yeah.
Yeah, that takes like 30 minutes of our show. But all that, bro, is just church, man. It's background preacher music, So I try not to get too gospel. I try to keep it more, how would I say it? More modern. I don't even know the word for it, man. But I don't want to get too far churchy because then, the vibe kind of gets a little awkward. Right? But yeah, at the end of the day, that's just what it is, man. It's just the church playing, man. That's, I incorporate a lot of that with my playing. Yeah.
Well, Mario, I appreciate you giving me so much of your time here. I lost you for a second. There you are. Okay. Sorry, I had a little issue here with the whole live stream thing. But is there any like closing words, any kind of inspiration, anything you want to tell people, anything having to do with music or Corona or anything, the world, food, anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, brother. I just want to wish everybody the best. Again, right now, it's a hard time for us musicians, man. It's we're taking a huge hit right now, like I said earlier. But just keep your faith in God, man. He's going to get us through all of this. Again, what I said earlier, I think once this thing blows over, the music business is just going to boom, man. Everybody's ready to get back to gigging, to get back into the studio. People want to get out and go hang out and dance, listen to live music. Hopefully, the whole live music scene blows up, man. Right now, I think, again, it's a good opportunity for everybody to put out content, man. Everybody's on social media right now. Take advantage of that. Put whatever content you have, whether it's old stuff or whatever, just keep the buzz going, because then it's just going to fade out. Mm-hmm. So, keep your head up. Everybody that's out there taking a hit, taking a loss, I just want to send you blessings. We're here for whatever we can do. We're here. That's pretty much all I can say, brother.
Okay, I lied. One more quick question, and then we'll stop, okay?
Let's do it. I got all night.
Okay, then. How'd you get connected with the Commodores?
Commodores, man. Okay. So, last year, my business partner, Miguel Ortiz, he was, I think he was doing managing at the time. So he was managing Thomas McClary. Thomas McClary is the original founder of the Commodores. He was the one that, I don't want to say discovered, but I guess discovered Lionel Richie. So them two started the Commodores. I guess when the band broke up, there was some issues there with some of the guys kept the name. Thomas kept the name. Thomas had his own band in the Commodores. Whatever was left of the band, they kept the name. So there was a dispute there for the name for years, man. So I guess right now there's two Commodore bands. There's a band that has a couple of the original guys, and the band that I play with has a few of the originals as well. So I play with Thomas McClary, which is the original founder of the band. So at that time, my partner was managing him, and he wanted to bring him to San Antonio. So he hit me up and asked me if I could put a band together for Thomas. They were going to honor him with some kind of award. I forget what it was, but basically what we're going to do is put a Commodore tribute band together. Mm-hmm. So I got some homies, and we put a band together, and Thomas loved it, man. He loved the sound, and the band did great. So time passed, and I got a text from Thomas. I think Miguel had given him my number. So he's like, hey, man, I got some shows here in Jersey, Atlantic City, and stuff like that. Are you interested in doing some shows? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So sure enough, man, he sent me the music on Dropbox and the tunes. But this was like one of the weirdest things, man, because so some of the songs they play, they have stems. They have backing tracks, right? So that's how I had to learn these songs. And there was no bass line. There was no lead vocal. There was just harmonies, and little keyboard patches here and there. So some of these songs I've never heard before. Right. And I'm like, man, what is going on here? Like, I don't understand this. Like, where's the melody? What's going on here? So I had to do my research and go on YouTube and go here and try to find the songs. And it was an adventure, man. But, so I went in blind, basically, bro. I learned the tunes as closely as possible as I could, and got to the gig, never rehearsed, never did anything, just went to the gig and did my thing, man, and they loved it. I was just supposed to go as a fill-in for 2 or 3 gigs, and so I went to Atlantic City and did that gig, and they loved it, man. And he had asked if I wanted to do some more shows. So then we finally brought him down to San Antonio. And so again, I was talking about how when I do certain shows, that I'll have my rig, my huge rig set up.
Mm-hmm.
So sure enough, man, I brought all the toys. I brought the guitar, and Thomas had never seen the guitar, man. So we were playing Slippery When Wet. Yeah, so Slippery When Wet, man, and Too Hot to Trot, funky tunes, man. That old school funky 70s sound. So man, I strapped on the guitar, and Thomas said during the the interlude in the middle, I want you to throw a solo. He thought I was going to do it behind the keyboard, man, and I had walked to the other side of the stage, and he turned around and he looked for me, and he just like, what happened to this dude? And then there I am in the front, just blah, 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 blah. So, man, everybody blew up, man, and they were like, oh, yeah, dude, yeah. They had a great time. They thought it was cool, and he's like, man, from now on, that's going to be part of the show. And I was like, man, cool. So I want to say I did something good there, man, but yeah, it's a blessing, man, to play with a band like that, man. It's so much fun, man, and so professional, brother. I mean, it's another world compared to what we do over here.
Yeah, but I know you were in Detroit,
great, man. And I have a lot of fun.
You were in Detroit not too long ago, maybe last year or something like that with them, and I found out too late. I was actually gigging that day, and I was like, man, I would have liked to have gone and see you guys play out there. And so let me ask you this then. I've seen you like from fanfare bands to Jay Pettis to whatever, right? And I've seen you like fill in with like some like Tejano bands that like are well known and stuff, from Chente to whoever, right? How do you mentally prepare yourself, say for Commodores or for a Tejano gig or something, when there's so much material to learn and like it's such little time? How do you wrap your mind around? Do you write charts for yourself, or do you like take notes, or what? Or do you just kind of like sit down and shed for days until it's like showtime?
Before I used to just shed, try to just lock myself in the room, but now it's different. It's like you said, man, there's so much material now, because not only am I learning music with this band or that band, but I also have all this stuff going on with all these projects that I'm working on. So there's really no time to sit down and just spend 3 or 4 hours learning music. So I have to write charts, bro. Like I write notes down and I write charts, because I have a hard problem with things sticking in here, man. Like, to just burn it. To this day, there's still some songs where like I played this 1,000 times, and I still have to kind of go back and look at this or that or whatever, or just kind of it's, I guess it's like riding a bike, right? It comes back to you. But for all these songs that I have to take out and learn, I have to write charts and make my notes. A lot of the times I try to leave the notes on the side and not, let everybody know that I'm reading charts, right? Because it doesn't look professional. But I mean, there's technology nowadays. You can have the phone or the iPad and stuff like that, and it looks cool, and you get away with doing that. But for the most part, yeah, man, I try to learn as much as I can, shedding, but the stuff that just I don't have time to do, listen to these songs or whatever, I'll make my charts and my notes.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, so of all the Tejano bands that you've played, aside of Jay Pettis, what was like the most complicated gig? I know you mentioned you played with The Breed and stuff like that. What was like as a fill-in where you had to play with somebody that's like the music was really like intricate, where you had to like really think about the tunes and stuff like that?
Latin Breed, bro.
Latin Breed
was, it was that was actually one of the first gigs as far as Tejano music goes. where I had to really sit down, do my homework, listen, and do the whole play, rewind, play, rewind, play, rewind. And there was times where I just couldn't get it, man. I was like, man, what's going on here? And it was so easy, like it's right there, but I wasn't used to playing these type of chords or these type of progressions. So I had to just call Gilbert. Hey, what are you doing right there, man? Oh, it's a D11 with the raised da 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 da. I was like, oh man, I knew that. Mm-hmm. I was just always beating myself up. I was always second guessing myself, man, and I think I got past that now. But that gig was probably the gig that gave me a hard time, man, as far as trying to advance my playing and learning new chords and really taking my time to study the music, man. Mm-hmm. After that, everything else kind of just it flowed smoother. The day stuff. The Tejano songs that we do, it's a little progressive, right? But all those chords you hear come from these guys, the Gilbert Velasquez, Jerry La Rosa, Joel Guzman, all these great producers, man, that they incorporate some of these jazz chords or jazz whatever, or whatever you want to call it, man. Mm-hmm. So yeah, all that comes into me, man, and yeah, the breed was the gig, man.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. Well, Mario, I want to thank you again for being the second interview that we've done. We had a couple technical things before we started and whatever, but maybe further on down the line we can do this again. We can share some more stories and all that. It's been fun, and maybe next time we can get you to play a little bit too, so we can hear you play.
I can go to the studio real quick and get on the piano if you want to hear something.
Yeah, man, go ahead. You can play us off. Go ahead and play a little bit, and then after that, then we can.
Okay, so let me see. I'm gonna take this audio, see if it's gonna mess anything up. Hold up.
Okay.
Can you still hear me there?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so let me walk over here, man, real quick.
So do you have your studio at your home, or do you have your studio at a different remote location?
Yeah, we got a building, brother, because the thing with the studio at your house, it started getting to the point to where it was getting so busy for me. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I had converted my garage into a studio, and I had just done it to where, I'm just gonna bring vocalists in to do vocal tracks and maybe, guitar players and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But then it got to the point to where it was costing a lot, to rent studio time, man, to go record drums or to do whatever, Mm-hmm. So I started doing drums at the house, and it just got carried away, man. There was a lot of traffic in my house.
Yeah.
So it's uncomfortable for my family and stuff like that, man. Having all these weird people coming in, and some of these artists, they bring their entourage and the buckets of beer, and they're ready to party. And it's like, hey, hold up, man, this is my house first, So yeah, we wound up having to get a building and build a studio, and yeah, man, it's been going good for we've been here 3 years already. So Studio A30, get up.
Awesome. Yeah, once we're done here, man, send me all the information you want, and I'll do a post and put all that information on there.
Cool, brother. So what do you want to hear? What do I want to hear?
I don't know, man. Play something that you like some Herbie or anything.
I'm just gonna play random chords, man. Let me see if I can get these pedals going. Okay, so I'm having problems with the sustain pedal, but let's see. So yeah, the tritone chords we're talking about, man. here, man. I mean, I can play, I don't know, so many songs, dude. Giant Step. One thing too that I've been trying to get with these keyboard players that I work with, man, is learning how to separate your inversions, your chords. Like a lot of keyboard players that I know, they play these clustered chords where everything's just kind of smashed together, you know?
Right. Instead of having like fourth voicings and stuff, like, you know, where the voices are a little bit more open and stuff.
Yeah, just fatter.
Yeah. And you know, and not only that, but when you start separating the notes, and this starts getting into more theoretical stuff, but when you actually have wider intervals, you can have different notes that might be, for whatever reason, a tritone apart. I mean, sorry, a half step apart, like a D and a E flat, and that together in a cluster chord sometimes sounds like a lot of tension. But if you play it, you know, apart like that, yeah.
Right. Yeah, man. It makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to do that in my playing too, man, trying to incorporate all that, because I used to be that player too, where I just played everything together. And if you don't have the right patch, it's going to sound muffled.
It's going to sound muddy. Yeah.
Yeah. Not bad, brother.
I noticed you were talking about giant steps, right? Or what? Well, oops. Right?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, Coltrane's a bad dude, man. That I was analyzing that solo at one point, but man, like those bebop guys have those bebop guys have real tasty licks, man. Like Donna Lee, that first lick, Charlie Parker. Right? That's like, it's so tasty. And even like that chromatic, whatever, you know, and then that big glissando up on the diminished. Well, I forgot. It's been a while, but still, like, those licks, man, those are, you know, nice. That if you learn those and start incorporating them into your, you know, cumbia soloing, right? Like, like there was one lick from Charlie Parker from, I think the tune's called Confirmation. The tune goes, whatever, right? So I try to learn that in as many keys as possible. So if I'm soloing, like, say, an F, I'll be like, or whatever, and then try to incorporate some of that stuff in there. But yeah, but that's the thing, is that like soloing from like a bebop perspective, like like is a different language than, say, like you know what I mean, like whatchamacallit, like a Corey Henry, where it's more of like a solo, like a solo synth sort of, you know, like you know, doing more like single note stuff where it's more like shredding than it is like coming up with like lyrical stuff, like, and that's why I think like some of the bebop guys, like the Charlie Parkers and like the Dizzy Gillespies and you know, even like Arturo Sandoval, who's like Latin jazz, you know what I mean, but they have like those bebop sort of like phrases, you know, all the chromatic approaches to different notes within the chords and stuff like that. That's to me, that's like the epitome of soloing, but whatever.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's two different worlds, you know. Like,
it is.
When you're soloing with the synth, like you said, it's more polyphonic, right? Just real shredding, versus soloing with a piano patch where you're playing chords in the left hand and making sense with the right. So yeah, it's when you're doing that, I think it's like a left brain, right brain kind of thing. So you
and then not only that, but your comping is not like, you know, when you're playing Tejano, like, so for example, here, let me pull up, okay, that's really quiet, but so like when you're playing, say, Tejano, for example, uh here, let me, there we go. So when you're playing Tejano, like you're comping and it's like, right? Or even if you're playing cumbia, sometimes like you're playing something rhythmic. But then when you come to solo, like if you're soloing from a bebop perspective, it's like you have to, like you said, left brain think. Like when you're comping, you're like playing like rhythms, like, you know what I mean? Like
rhythm. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like in the left hand, you still have to like still tell, it's like you're telling two different stories, right? It's like this hand is
exactly.
like you're singing the melody, but like the chords in the background are like
Right.
like a whole nother animal. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, man. So it all comes down to theory, knowing your theory too, man. Rhythms and notes and chords and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend everybody at least trying. For those of you that don't know, like you said earlier, the number system, start off with that first,
Mm-hmm.
learning where to go when they tell you go to the 2, go to the 5, and then slowly there you start to build up your knowledge, man, with music theory. Because at the end of the day, music is infinity, bro, but it all makes sense if you know what you're talking about when you're playing.
Yep.
So to some people it might not, and it might go over their heads, but when you're talking Tejano music, we can incorporate some of this stuff, but not go overboard, I guess, but still make sense and be melodic and make it sound fun and stuff. But I've seen a lot of keyboard players that they try to do the whole comp and soloing or whatever, and it's this and take it out one step at a time, man. Learn your chords first, learn your patterns, your rhythms when you're gonna do comping. Work with a bass player, or if not, work on just how can I say, man, just your rhythms, I guess. Even if you have to do bass line and work your chords first, just rotation. And once you have that riff in your head, and you can. Then you start working the left hand, because now you know what's going on with the rhythms and the chords. So now you got to get used to, again, left and right. So it's just practice, brother. It's just practice, man. If the musicians are serious about the craft, you practice, you learn. Nowadays, there's so many ways to learn, man. YouTube is one of the biggest outlets out there, man, where people can get online and learn how to do anything. Right now I'm trying to learn how to make toilet paper, bro, because that seems to be the ticket. So you can learn anything on YouTube, man, but if you want to be a musician, just do whatever you can, man, to learn chords, music theory, man. It's just music theory at the end of the day.
Yeah,
that's all I can suggest. Yeah.
All right, Mario. Well, thank you so much, man. This was fun. And like I said, hopefully we can do this again, man, because, we already know with music, it's an infinite space, man. Like, there's so much to cover, so much to talk about, so many stories. Us musicians, we're such complex people that, like, there's so much to cover that, like, in an hour's time, hour and a half time, like, it's just, you can't cover it all, you know what I mean? And just with music in general, I think that, like, you can't, it's not like a video game where, I'm done. I beat music. I'm done. I'm the winner. You can't. It's like there's always. It's like that video game that never ends. It's like there's always the next. You keep putting quarters into the machine and you trying to, whatever. But that's all you can do, right? So.
That's all you can do, brother. It's never ending, man.
Yeah. I do want to mention.
That's the fun part about music, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do want to mention to people who are watching that we were having some kind of buffering issues, and so part of the interview was kind of cutting out right before you started soloing, but I have recorded the last part of the show, so I'm going to upload that separately in hopes that it'll cover most of whatever, because I don't know what was happening. Last week we weren't having any connection issues, but this is live, and so it's a whole different onda. It's not like I can come back and edit it. It's all live. So all right, Mario, thank you so much. And everybody, don't forget to tune in next week. I believe next week we have Mark Ledesma, who plays keys with Ledez, and we sang with you guys and sang with David Lee, and everybody knows who he is. I don't know why people know who he is. So all right, thank you, Mario, once again, and we'll see you later, man.
Thank you, Rolando. I appreciate you, man. Everybody that's tuning in, thank you guys. Keep supporting live music, and check us out again at TejanoKeyboard.com. Just thank you again, brother. God bless everybody. I appreciate your time. We'll see you next time, man.
All right, we're off the air.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.